What's up, folks? I'm Dwayne.
I'm Alicia.
And this is Blackboard Gaming, where we teach you about all these great board games that are out there,
waiting to be played by you and yours.
I'm a simple man, don't wanna complicate you.
Hey everybody! Today, we're going to give you a heads up on a game that's coming to Kickstarter. And that game is called Lairs.
Lairs was created by Christopher Westmaas and published by Kids Table Board Gaming.
Let's go to the table for an overview of how this game is played. Lairs is a two-player deduction game set in a fantasy world where the players are racing to exit the other player's dungeon. Now keep in mind that this is a prototype copy of the game, so this is not the final version. Each player is going to get one of these player screens and they're going to place it up in front of their play area. And they're going to get a lair board, 20 wall tokens, 3 monster tokens, 3 treasure chest tokens, 3 trap tiles, a start tile, an exit tile, and their opponent's explorer. Each player is also going to get a fresh map sheet along with their own tracker meeple and a pencil. They're also going to get this player mat with 6 cubes, 4 white, 1 yellow, 1 green, and they're going to place it in the spent area of their player mat. Next, we're going to take this deck of 20 treasure cards, and after giving it a good shuffle, we're going to place it next to the play area in reach of all players, and we're going to reveal 3 cards face up to form a display. Lastly, we're going to take these 3 dice and place them in reach of all players, and then we're going to take the Hungry Blob monster card and the Grease Pit trap card, placing it face up where both players can see them. Before starting the game, each player has to build up their lair. Now there are 3 requirements that they have to pay attention to when building their lair. The first requirement is they have to use all of their player pieces. Well, not quite all of them. They can leave up to 3 walls off of their board, but everything else they have to use. Once a player has finished building up their lair, they're going to take their opponent's explorer token and place it on the start tile. Now the second requirement that the players have to follow is you cannot have any enclosed spaces in your lair. Every area of the board has to be reachable from the start tile. So if I place this wall here, then this area will be totally enclosed and this will be an illegal lair. The third requirement is from start tile to any of the goals, which is the exit tile or the treasure chest, they have to have at least one path that does not include 2 hazards of the same type. So hazards are the trap tiles and the monster tokens. You can have 1 monster token and 1 trap tile, but you cannot have double of either one. Once a player, the first player that finishes up their lair will get to choose who gets to go first. This is how each player has built up their dungeon. And of course, the layout of their dungeon is unknown to the other player because of these player shields. So the goal of the game is for each player to explore the other player's dungeon, trying to find treasure, trying to defeat monsters, and avoid traps, and ultimately finding the exit. The game end is triggered when one player has found the exit and has either found all 3 treasures, defeated all 3 monsters, or defeated 2 monsters and found 2 treasures. At which time the other player will get a final turn and then the game will end. So I'm going to use the opponent's dungeon as reference. At the very beginning of the game, this player is going to ask the opponent where the start tile is in their dungeon. And they're going to give you the coordinates. So here is E4. And so this player is going to draw those coordinates. As you can see, it's already marked off. The first thing you're going to do is draw a circle, which signifies that that area is now known. Whenever you move and explore a space on the board, you're first going to draw a circle. Then the opponent is going to describe if there's any wall surrounding that space. So as you can see, there's a wall to the north and a wall to the east. And so this player has already marked it off. And then if there's any feature tiles, the player is going to draw inside that circle. So as we're starting on the start tile, so they're going to draw S. Whenever you move into a space with a monster, you're going to draw a square inside the circle. Traps will get triangles. The exit sign will get the letter E inside the circle. And treasure chests, you would just draw a treasure chest because we done already used up the circle, squares, and triangles. And then on subsequent turns, it's wise to always verify your location in the dungeon to make sure that you're in the right spot. Now, once you verify where you are, you're going to take your little tracker meeple. That player is going to take their tracker meeple and put it on that spot. The next thing they're going to do is take all their cubes that's on their player mat and move it one space to the left. So all these cubes were in the spent area, they're going to move them to the fresh. Now, if there's any cubes in the fatigue area, you move them to the spent area. And I'll explain how cubes will end up in the fatigue spot in a little bit. Then they're going to start spending cubes to explore the dungeon. And how you spend the cubes is written inside the player shield. Now, I'm not going to go into every move action you could take, but I'm going to point out the basic action, which is just creep. So the creep, you will spend any cube moving it over into the spent area to move into an orthogonally adjacent space. Now, of course, you can't move through walls, so this player wouldn't be moving to the east. So he decides that he's going to go over to E3. So he tells his opponent, I'm moving to E3, and he would draw a circle, letting it be known that it's known now. And then the opponent would describe if there's any walls, which there isn't any, and if there's any features. So there's nothing there. So now this opponent will put their tracker meeple into that spot. Another action that the player can take is they can hustle, which requires them to spend any 2 dice or this yellow dice. And hustle means you get to creep through up to 3 spaces, exploring each one individually with the opponent describing each space. And if ever you move into a space that has a feature, so in this case there's a monster there, then your hustle immediately ends. Now, whenever you explore a space that has a monster or a trap, you end up suffering penalties. So this monster, you have to fatigue any 2 cubes. So let's say I'm going to fatigue these 2. And so that means in my next turn, these will just move to spent, and they won't be available for me until the turn after that. The trap requires you to fatigue 2 fresh cubes. So now I can either move out of that space, or I could choose to fight the monster. Remember, I need to defeat monsters in order to get out of the dungeon. So let's say I decide to fight the monster. The monster health is at 6. So I would spend 1 cube per die that I want to roll. So I'm going to roll 3 die because these die can only goes up to 4 pip value. So I'm going to spend these 3 and I'm going to roll the dice. Hopefully I get a 6. And I got 10. So I definitely defeated that monster. And so now this monster's defeated. My opponent would take give me the monster out of that space in their dungeon, and I will place it right here. And then I would shade in that square out on the map, letting it be known that that monster is no longer there. It has been defeated. And so now I'm on my way of having the requirements in order to get out of the dungeon if I ever find the exit. Another action I can take is I can peer, which requires any 2 cubes or this green cube. And peer means I get to look into an orthogonally adjacent space and then choose to move into it or not to move into it. So if I chose an orthogonally adjacent space, there's a monster in it, I would just draw in that square. But now when I move into it, it's known, so I wouldn't suffer the penalty. Later on, if the player was able to find a treasure in the opponent's dungeon, then they're going to get 2 treasure cards. They're going to draw one from the top of the deck and place it face down in front of them. And then they're going to draw one from the display to possibly match up with that treasure, because some of these score points off of each other. So let's say they decide to get this one, and then they're going to refresh the treasure display. Now, the player is going to continue to take turns till they no longer have cubes to spend. But another action they can take is they can conserve, which means they might decide to end their turn and place these cubes over into the conserved space, which means now when they spend these cubes, they will get to do 2 sets of actions with those cubes. So like I said, the game will continue going back and forth like that until a player has successfully found the exit and also met the requirements in order to leave the dungeon. And then the players will score up their points, they will score up their treasure cards, they will score up any points they got from the number of monsters defeated, and then the player that was the first to exit will get 4 points, and if the opponent was able to exit on their last turn, they will get 2 points, and then whoever has the most points will be the winner of Lairs. Once you've played the base game a few times, it's instructed to add the contents of these boxes and envelopes to the game, which will introduce new monsters, new traps, some new cubes, some action stickers that you can sticker onto your player shield, and it's going to add a lot more fun and complexity to the game. So there are a few things I have to point out. First, what I love most about the game is usually in a game where you're building something, and at the end of the game, you get to sit back and marvel at what you built.
Yeah.
In this game, you get to sit back and marvel at what you built before the game even begins. I really like that. I had so much fun building up my dungeon and trying to build my dungeon, to where it was hard for you to find treasure and stuff.
So I'm going to be honest. I struggled a little bit more at being strategic and setting up my dungeon. And while we were playing, a couple of times I had to quickly make some moves because I realized I had created, how you're supposed to not create enclosed spaces.
Oh, my
But
gosh.
I had done that unintentionally, however.
Okay, but now, the other thing I wanted to point out is this is not your type of thing. So, I got her to play it because it brought back nostalgia for me, because it reminded me of Battleship.
So, I'm going to be honest, I was skeptical, but I was a good sport and I played it. And honestly, it was fun. And it actually reminded me of that other game we played, Escape.
Run?
It
Yeah.
reminded me of that because, So it was cool trying to set up a trap for your opponent and trying to explore their dungeon.
Yeah, so that's why she's here, because I like pretty much everything. So, but she's not gonna sugarcoat it, and that's what I appreciate about my wife. She's not gonna sugarcoat it. She's gonna be straight and up front. But I did call in a favor. I said, hey, play this game with me, because it's only 2-player, and I played it with a couple other people. And one of the things that another thing that I love is, I know this is the prototype, but I love the components in this game.
I do like the components. I do like the wall, and I do like.
I like the little treasure chest.
Yeah, I do like.
I like the little monster meeple.
Yeah.
And I peeked at some of the other monsters that are coming up, and I was like, "Ooh, oh man, I can't wait to play with this monster in the game." And I just really, really like this game.
I think yes. I think if you're a fan of Battleship, this game is going to appeal to you. That type of game.
Yeah, where you're moving, you're moving around the board, and your other player can't see where you're moving, so they're trying to find you or But in this game, you are just trying to get out of the dungeon.
Yes.
And I love the cube currency. So like you have to spend cubes in order to take certain actions.
Oh yeah, I think that's
I
think
love that.
That's cool. I think that's cool, and I like that you could creep or you could be a little bolder and hustle. You know, if you conservative like me, you might just do a lot of creeping, or if you a little more riskier like him, you might.
I'm trying to get out that dungeon.
You gonna do some hustling.
And I'll run into a monster was so quick. But I mean, this game is really cool. I like the fact that, after you play the base game, you can like add more components from the other modules and stuff and just add a little bit more complexity to the game. And I think this game is like 10 and up. And I think for younger players, that strategy, like I said, that cube currency, and you got that strategy there of like whether or not you're going to hustle or whether you can conserve cubes.
Yeah.
So I think that if you're playing with a younger player, make it where they don't have to conserve. They could just stick with the cube movement and everything.
Okay.
And then also like with the treasure chest, you gain those treasure cards. And for younger players, you could have it where they just gain the treasure. And then they score points, kind of like how the monsters score points.
Yes.
But all in all, I just really like this game.
It is fun. It is fun.
So yeah, like I said, it's coming to Kickstarter. Kids Table Board Gaming, they always put out some great games, and this might be one of my favorites.
Oh wow!
Because I like the theme. The theme of it all is moving through this maze.
Yeah, that's essentially what you're doing, moving through a maze.
I like those deduction games. You're trying to deduce, should I go here? Should I go there? Or whatever. And of course, you'll make it through if somebody isn't placing enclosed areas in their dungeon.
I didn't do it on purpose.
But you enjoyed the game.
I did.
I did. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, this is coming to Kickstarter today, actually. And I think if you're a fan of Kids Table Board Gaming and you like the games that they've been putting out, you got to go check this one out. This is a great family game that brings a sense of nostalgia for me. It kind of reminds me of Battleship meets Clank. You've never played Clank. But yeah, that's what I get from this. Okay. And I love it.
Okay.
So, like I said, we'll leave a link in the description below. You can go to the Kickstarter page and check it out. And I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm Dwayne.
I'm Alicia.
This has been Blackboard Gaming.
We will see you next time.